Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Steve Gilliland.
You're simply the best. Better than all the rest. See, I believe in order to make a difference, there's three things you have to do. You have to be driven by a purpose. You have to be fueled by a passion. But you always must remind yourself you're defined by your pride. The pride that you take every day in what you do. Have you ever been around a person that has no passion? I mean, aren't they fun? Now, last night, I tell you what, and I told the committee and the executive team here, spoiled me rotten. You know, I've been flying. They had no idea my travel schedule. So when I got here last night, what a treat, right? A gentleman was downstairs at the airport, and he says, Mr. Gilliland, I'm going to take you to the Peabody. And you know, it's nice. It really is. And I got in the car and, you know, told my wife I'm on my way to the hotel. And 5 minutes out, I hear him make a call. Yeah, we're 5 minutes away. I'm like, wow. Then I get there, and there's a young lady that meets me at the car. I didn't even have to go to the front desk. She takes me to the elevator and stuff. It reminds me of the last time I was in Orlando. True story. You're going to love this one. Ready? Gaylord Palms. I'm speaking at a large conference. Same situation. I get picked up at the airport. This driver, 10 minutes out, says we're 10 minutes away. We get there. There's 4 people waiting for me. I get out of the car, and you have to know my personality, man. I am from a small town. I'm a small town kid, right? I looked and I said, well, thank you. They introduced all themselves, and then the one on the right, about 19 years old, Vinny. Vinny said, Mr. Gilliland, I will be escorting you through the property. I will be your personal escort while you stay here. He said, my name is Vinny. I said, I got that, Vinny. I said, and your title is? I'm with Celebrity Services. All the celebrities that come to our hotel, I entertain them. I escort them. You know, I'm thinking this is hilarious, right? So I'm going, by the way, if you've ever been to the Gaylord Palms, Opryland Hotel, any of those properties, they're huge. So I really appreciate the fact you're going to take me in my room. On the way, I looked at him. I couldn't resist. I said, so Vinny, give me a little view of what you've been doing here. I said, celebrities. He goes, well, he said, the conference you're speaking at. He said, Michael Eisner opened up on Sunday. I got to escort him to his room, you know, from Disney. He said, Joe Theismann spoke yesterday. And he says, now I've got you. Got to the elevator. I said, Vinny, who am I? You're going to love the honesty of this kid. 19 years old, looks at me and says, sir, I don't have a frickin' clue. You're going to love this one, too. He looks at me and said, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, why did they hire you to speak? I said, well, think about it. Eisner, Theismann, they ran out of money. I had Alex with me. Now, Alex is now 15 years old, but I got to tell you, that boy, I love that kid to death. I mean, he's like my flesh and blood. He calls me Poppy, right? Well, 3 years ago, Mom's flying, right? So he says to me on this, I was going to speak at the Grove Park Inn in Asheville, North Carolina. He says, can I go with you? I said, sure. He said, on the way over, he's grinning. He said, on the way over, can we stop at McDonald's? You know, he's 12 years old. I said, sure, bud. He said, there is one more thing. I said, what's that? He said, will you do that thing you do at the drive-thru if the person doesn't have passion? I said, where are we headed with this, Alex? He said, Puppy, I've always heard you tell the story in front of an audience, and I've even heard it on your CDs. Now I want to witness it live. He's a pretty sharp kid, right? We're going across Interstate 40 from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Our destination is Asheville, North Carolina. He sees a sign, exit 105, Morganton, North Carolina. There's a McDonald's, and we pull in. And I'm praying, Lord, give me a person with passion. Then I hear this as we get to the speaker. Charlie. Alex. So I gave the kid my order. I said, I want a chicken. Frank, go. Because I understand what you say. I said, I want a chicken. Frank, go. You'll love this one. He said, pull around. The speaker's broke. Alex hits the floor in the passenger side going. I said, we're going all the way. We pulled up to window number 2. Kid said, so about that man, what do you need? I said, I want a chicken. Frank, go. Alex said, go, go, go. We pull out of McDonald's. We have no food. We've been to 2 windows. We have no food. I said, what are we doing? 12-year-old looks at me and says this, Poppy, I might be only 12, but I do know this. If the person packing our food doesn't think you're funny, I'm not eating it. Lessons learned, wisdom earned. What super psychological genius said to count? I'm not a child psychologist. I might not even be a great parent, but I do know this. If you give a young person to the age, I don't care what age, if they're young, you give them to the count of 5, they're going to take you there. Because they want to see what you're going to do when you hit that number. Don't let me get to 1,422. We were in a grocery store, my mom and I, about 8 years ago, right? You know, single guy. I said, Mom, go grocery shopping with me. We're not in that grocery store 5 minutes. And everything in my life, it's like, you got to be, I can't believe it. I just can't have one normal experience, right? Woman starts to count to her kid, Jimmy. She said, Jimmy, don't make me get to 5. I'm an adult standing there going, Jimmy, take her to 5. She got to 4. She said 4.5. And my mother hollered, 5, whack 'em. You've got to get lit. You've got to be driven by that purpose. You've got to be fueled by that passion. I love to be around people like that. And let me ask you this. Who put you here? Who put you in this audience? Who made you a part of this group? Why are you here? When I stand on this stage before you today, I'm very proud to tell you there are a lot of people that influenced my life. So here's your question. In this session, you saw coming up the escalator, it said making a difference. Well, let me tell you. There's been a lot of people that have made a difference in your life. So now I'm going to ask some of you for the first time to think about those people right now. Because here's the deal. In order for you to make a difference, you have got to make a commitment today to leave here and begin to impact people like you were impacted. People gave you a voice. When I wrote the book, Mum's the Word, the first chapter, I sent it to the publisher. He actually emailed back, and I was stunned. He said, I don't read many books, and I don't read whole chapters. But he said, yours is the first one. Then when I read, when you were asking people to think about 5 people who made the biggest difference in their life, he said, I began to think about ending up at this job as a chief editor at this publishing company, thinking, man, how did I get here? And then I started to realize along the way who influenced me. You see, in my life, I narrowed it down to 5. I had a list of about 17, then I made it a list of 5 as I began to think about it. On top of my list, well, you know, you'd have to know that when you were single for a long time and you meet somebody very special. My wife has impacted my life in an incredible way. She's that person that's, I call her the voice of reason. Then there's my mom. You know, mom's on my list. And then there's Margaret. That's right. Margaret makes my list, my top 5. And then there's a gentleman named Mark Brooker. I worked with Mark back in corporate America. Mark makes my list. As a matter of fact, as I was making that list and had 17 people, his name just kept jumping out. And I thought, you know, if it wouldn't have been for Mark, I wouldn't do. Because you see something? If they cancel my flight from Orlando to Charlotte this afternoon, it'll be the influence and the difference that people have made in my life. That's how I respond to that cancellation. See, I respond to things based on how I've been influenced to respond to them. I always think about how Mark responded to adversity. That's when I realized what an influence he had in my life. And then my 6th grade teacher, 6th grade, he made my list of 5. 6th grade teacher. But here's what you have to do. You have to ask yourself, what did those 5 people give you? If they made such a difference in your life, think about what they gave you. I was speaking at the Wisconsin Dells, the administrators, the principals. I was their closing speaker. A guy walked up to me. The man is emotional, and he said, you have any idea the difference you made in our school? And I go, no, I don't. He said, you didn't speak at our school. But he said, I was at a conference you spoke at. I then went back and kicked off the school year. He takes off his coat. He says, check it out. He has the name of his school on the front, and on the back it said, make the list. He said, I told every teacher when I handed him a T-shirt, I want you this school year to make the list. You make a student's list. He said, make a difference.